they banned all fans from NCAA tournament games. And there was also a statement sent out that they're suggesting that all sports not have any fans at all. I just want to get your opinion and initial reaction on that statement.
Well, certainly this is in my lifetime, the first time something like this has ever happened, that we've gotten to the point where we've had to ban that. So I think that's shocking in itself, and the fact that we've got to, it shows you the seriousness, I think, of what the potential of that is, that we're going to that length, because to disrupt an event that is part of the American fabric, like March Madness, to get to the point where people aren't involved in terms of spectators. Obviously, I'm so glad that they're going to continue the games and so forth, but spectators involved. I think it shows you the magnitude of what can happen. So, on the other side of it, I'll liken it to something like this. When you get on an airplane and they delay you out there on the tarmac for about 2 hours, and you're like, they're going to, but if you really think about it, you go, what? I'm kind of glad they're fixing whatever that problem is. So that's the way I kind of look at it. Obviously, I've just got the news too. They actually just told us upstairs, literally minutes before we walked down here. Shocking would be my first response to that. Shows you how that we just can't take things for granted, and this is it's a very serious situation. And the people that are more educated on this subject than I certainly am, I'm a basketball coach, obviously are doing this to make sure everybody's kept safe.
Picking back off of that recruiting, how does it affect you guys with recruiting, or have you seen any effects yet? Or are you already starting to plan for, travel issues?
It's happened so fast. I know as of last night, I was down in New Orleans attending a game that was. There were so many people there that it was a high school basketball playoff game in Louisiana, New Orleans, and there were so many people there, they quit taking people in. They wouldn't allow the crowd all into the gym. There were so many folks. And I didn't see, I didn't see or hear one person. I saw a lot of people shaking hands and hugging and doing all the things and hanging around after the game. So there was literally no effect as of last night. Obviously, moving forward, if we're talking about events, and I'm going to give you an example, I'm scheduled to be in Hutchinson, Kansas next week for the National Junior College Tournament. How is that going to affect? Is there going to be a subsequent effect on that because the NCAA? That's going to be. I bought plane tickets. I have tickets to the Final Four. We have Division I coaches meetings at the Final Four. So how is all that going to be affected? I guess it all remains to be seen. But obviously, it's the magnitude of the situation is very severe. Otherwise, the people in the know, the experts who I would have to trust, are hopefully making the right decisions. And sometimes I've been in a position of, as a former school administrator myself, when I was in high school, you have to sometimes make decisions. You have to err toward the side of caution. And because I'm here, it's not that bad, it's not any worse than a regular virus. You hear all kind of stuff, but you have to err on the side of caution, and I respect that. So, but it is going to be disruptive, and we'll just like everything else we do, we'll adjust to whatever's said, and it could affect recruiting in the sense in a very immediate way. Because again, what's going to happen with the National Junior College Tournament? There's a number of those guys that we're recruiting that'll be participating next week. I'm assuming their games will still go on, but if they ban non-essential personnel, I'm assuming Division I coaches are going to be non-essential in terms of that game getting played. So I don't know how it's going to affect us, but as long as it affects everybody else the same way and nobody gets a particular advantage, and I don't think that would happen. We'll figure it out.
Turning towards the end of the season, you guys were so close going into pod play. How do you, as a coach, and your team players that are coming back, how do y'all move on from that and start building towards next year? What's the thought process in moving forward with you and your team when you're so close?
Yeah, well, we're disappointed. I'm disappointed. Our players were disappointed. Our fans should be disappointed. I'm certain that they are as well. That we didn't make. One of our goals obviously would be to make the conference tournament. We didn't make it. I'm such a positive thinker. We were picked 14th and we didn't finish 14th. So we won a little bit there, but we were in such a strong position, I think, heading into pod play. We didn't handle, for whatever reason, and again, I've never been in a situation, Heath, you and I talked about this in my 29 years as a head coach. I've never been in a situation where we had to take that much time off after we were playing our best basketball. We had just swept Florida Atlantic and Florida International, had put us at 5-9. I mean, we had a legitimate chance at even in that thing out, which I think would have been incredible in terms of our league schedule. But we took the break, and I just didn't do a good enough job of figuring out how to keep that edge and sharp. I thought our guys played hard. They battled. Those 4 games, we were right there in every game, every single one of them. We were never out of any one. Took several of them, went to the wire, but we didn't handle that 2 weeks. It affected us, and we just didn't seem to have that edge. I've heard all kind of people and so many well wishers and coach, and great job, and y'all overachieve, but. When we fall short of a goal, no matter what the circumstances have been, we're not excuse makers, and it is what it is. We're disappointed that we didn't finish out better in pod play to get us. We wanted our guys to experience that conference tournament. We didn't do it, and I take responsibility for it.
Coach, I know you're not into making excuses, but to that point, you only had 7 guys when you talk about your bench play. You had guys playing, complete games. You think that caught up with you guys down the stretch?
Again, you're bringing that up, and certainly a lot of people have brought that up and made that point, and I would be remiss to say as a former athlete myself that over the course of time that's going to come into play. I do think that toward the end of the season we were emotionally spent. It was really hard to get that emotional edge back. I thought we were physically spent. We had some guys, as you mentioned, averaging over 40 minutes a game, which is maybe some kind of record. David would have to help you out on that, but that were averaging actually more than obviously 40 minutes is the max that you can play, but because of various overtimes, they were playing more than 40 minutes. But that was the situation that we were in due to, and I don't blame anybody else for that other than that's our responsibility. We had a few players not live up to the expectation of the athletic department, the team athletic department in the university in terms of academics. They're here to be student athletes. They didn't meet the expectation, and therefore it hurt our team that they weren't there. And we trusted those young men, and then again, they didn't do it. Hopefully they've learned a lesson and bounced back. That's certainly always the goal, and they are doing better, I'll tell you that, and I'm proud of that. But yes, I certainly would be not being truthful if I didn't feel like that it hurt us. We were mentally and physically spent. When you play 7 weeks of players that basically are playing 40 minutes a game with if they are substituted generally for just a very brief period of time, it's gonna wear on you, and I think it caught up to us.
Do you have a general idea of what your signing class is going to look like, as well as just in terms of what the roster will be for next season?
I have to be NCAA rules keep us, as y'all know, from being very specific. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you what we need, and these are areas that we've been very public about addressing. We need to sign a point guard, and we've certainly got a very excited about our commit that we have at point guard, which is public. We need to overall we need to increase the athleticism of our team. We need to sign a very athletic wing, and by that I mean a off guard or small forward position that has the ability to score the ball. We're heavily involved with several high-level players. Well, I mentioned Hutchinson, Kansas earlier, so y'all can draw some conclusions there. And then we need to sign a 4 and a 5. We've got a great nucleus back, and our lumps this year will pay off for us in the future by guys. Let's use an Artur Konatsa, who ends up averaging 36, 37 minutes a game in the second half of the season. That's in a normal year, and maybe where we'll be in year 3, he may play where he was this year 10, 12 minutes a game. But because of the situation we're in, well, that's not always a negative side to all that. Those guys got some great experience in close games, conference games. They're going to know what it takes. They were productive, competitive. So it's going to pay off well for us in the future. But again, our specific needs and who knows what's going to happen. There's some rumors out there, hasn't been put about the NCAA implementing the one-time transfer rule. We're under the impression that could happen. Hasn't happened. How's that going to affect us? That can affect us two ways. That could affect us. Maybe some guys decide they may be better off in other places, and in other places, guys may say, "Hey, I want to go play at Southern Miss," and what they have going on there. So that remains to be seen too. But certainly, we need to sign a point guard. We need to sign an athletic scoring wing. We need to sign certainly talented 4 and 5 that can make an impact next year. So, which tells you we're probably not going to sign a high school big. Okay, when I say a high school 5-man, that may need a year or two development. If we're signing a high school big, he's going to have to be somebody that can come in and play for us immediately. So that gives you an idea of what we've targeted so far in terms of recruiting. I will say this. This is our first recruiting cycle to be at Southern Miss. Obviously, when we got the job last year, it was after the signing day had already occurred, and it's amazing, the Southern Miss brand to me. I've always been aware of it, but it's amazing the Southern Miss brand and how that gets you into better living rooms. I was at Southeastern Louisiana, and we had to battle and scrap and scratch. When folks, and using last night for example, in a particular high school gym in New Orleans, and they see that Southern Miss logo walk in, the amount of people that are drawn to that and the amount of respect that Southern Miss has is very encouraging to me. And there's a lot of respect out there for the Southern Miss brand, I'll tell you that. And that transcends, I'm not just talking about basketball, that's our university as well, and then certainly embodied in the athletic program.
You got anybody